Hey folks, welcome to Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Carlos, it's good to see you again, man. I look forward to these. I know we record on different days sometimes, but these weekly gatherings, these weekly discussions.
I do too, Shawn. You're a moving target. You're a man about town. You're mercurial. You're a mover and a shaker, so it's hard to pin you down. I'd like to have a solid, just let's stick to this time, this day, but you know, you're a big podcast star with ML Elric over there, sold to Detroit, so I get it. We can, whenever you can squeeze me in, Shawn, I appreciate it.
Well, that's fine. That's, I don't want to start breaking you down again psychologically, but didn't you move it last week? Didn't you have to have a window that we had to do it last week? Yes,
I think I might have.
You did.
It's been a while. I can't remember.
But that's okay. That's okay. All right. Look, we got lots to talk about today. It's the summer, so obviously we're going to talk about football because football is a year-round sport. Is that fair?
It's not summer yet, but yeah, close enough. It's hot enough.
Yeah, it is. Oh my goodness, and it's just going to get hotter. Okay, we were at the Lions OTAs. That's organized team activities, right? If you
Why
didn't
do
know
they call it that? It's such a stupid name. Organized.
Well, they shortened it to OTA. Yeah, they shortened it to OTA. So that's
how about
good. So we were there.
How about spring practice? How about just spring practice? Jeez.
Well, we're kind of in that. It feels like summer, but in any case, so we were there last week in Allen Park. They're about to have another one this week. It was our first chance to look at most of the team. Of course, not in pads, as Dan Campbell, the head coach, what's he call them? Pajama
party. Yeah, the pajama
parties. So it's the first chance, to see the rookies, right? And
the full team together.
And it was also, Carlos, the first chance, not the first chance, but the first time Jameson Williams talked since the news broke that he was caught gambling on site and suspended for 6 games this fall. Were you at that news conference?
Yes, I was standing opposite of you, but I'm so small in stature and in your opinion that you didn't even see me. So I understand the oversight, but yeah,
no,
we were sitting directly across from each other.
I knew you were there, but I just wanted to, I'm setting you up here.
Scrum. I was in the scrum.
I'm setting you up here to talk about what you thought.
Mm-hmm. Well, you wrote a very interesting column about this where I just want to tell the listener out there, find somebody who, I hope in your life you can find somebody who looks at you the way that Shawn Windsor looks at Jameson Williams, and that gives you every benefit of the doubt, every pass conceivable, because golly gee, he's just a 22-year-old kid, and aw shucks, don't we all make mistakes? Even though we're paid millions of dollars and get a lot of coaching from, the team and the PR people and the whatever, there's a whole system. There's a rookie orientation program to tell you what to do, what not to do. But I hope someone can give you the full pardon the way Shawn Windsor gave Jameson Williams for gambling and worse, making all these transgressions of, basically throwing shade at his quarterback. Because, it's just social media. It's not been around very long. Nobody really knows how to use it. So, it's okay. We're all okay. It's all fine.
Well, it's not that it's fine. It's just that, yeah, he's young. And if we want to say everybody at 22 is a fully finished, developed human being, when we can hardly say that.
He's a mid-career professional at 22 as an NFL player.
No, he would be a mid-career professional at 27. And if you don't think there's a difference between 22 and 27, and by the way, first of all, there are a couple of things. And it's funny because Mike Elwick and I had this same discussion on his podcast. The idea that money makes a difference at that age, that it somehow rewires your brain chemistry, is I don't understand. I understand why people think that, because they feel like, well, if I had money, I wouldn't do anything to mess that up. So I think there's a little bit of projection going on there. So I understand the inclination, but that doesn't change the reality of the fact that money does nothing to rewire your brain chemistry. It doesn't replace experience in life. It replaces nothing. All it does is change the perception of what you're supposed to be or who you're supposed to be or how you're supposed to behave. And I don't think when it gets right down to it, it makes a hill of beans difference. As far as having extra people in your ear, I understand that that could help, but I would ask Mike the same thing. How many times did you tell your kids something? Okay, you have 2 kids. I have 2 kids. Mike has 2 kids. How many times did you tell both kids something? One of them, it stuck. they did what you asked, or you told them not to do something and they didn't, or then you told them not to just do something and they did just the opposite or whatever. One kid did that and the other didn't, right? It's just you have to keep saying that over and over at a certain age, even through their college years, and he's just getting out of college. So I just don't buy that. Just because you have rookie, not camp, but what do you want to call them? Gatherings where you lay out the laws of the NFL, that everybody's going to come out of that and never make a mistake. I just human beings just don't work that way, especially at that age.
Yeah, to some extent, but don't forget, I mean, and now more than ever, the whole idea of this, amateur student athlete myth has been, debunked and dispelled. I mean, we know that these guys are actually professionals in college. He's had how many years in college? 3-4 years, whatever it's been, to become a professional. And they tell them the same thing. At Alabama, that's a huge program. They tell them the same thing. Watch your social media. Be careful of what you like, what you retweet. Do not talk about this. Do not talk about that. They don't give him guidance as far as money. He doesn't have, I don't think he had an agent or a marketing guy or a financial guy or whatever it was. Yeah, that's all a little bit different now for him. And you're right. You're right that it doesn't fundamentally change your decision making, but there is a lot more at stake for him. And if you want to be understanding, you can be understanding, but the NFL doesn't care about being understanding. It's not for long. It's you do it right or you don't do it at all. You're gone. So he already, I don't want to say this isn't his fault because he was hurt last year. He missed almost all of last year. But the perception in the NFL, we got very little out of him last year. He was a project. He was basically a redshirt year for him. Let's see how it goes. But we haven't seen, he's a first round pick. This year, he's got to make good. He's got to deliver on that promise. He's already off to a terrible start. So you have 1 year that was almost completely wasted. You have a second year that now is going to be impaired by the 6-game suspension. And then on top of that, you have the worrisome part of his decision making. And let me ask you, we were both there. We both heard him. Did he really seem fully contrite to you about the gambling and about the social media stuff?
I try not to judge that part of it. What he seemed to me was a little overwhelmed. He seemed to me like somebody who was very, very uncomfortable doing that. Probably doesn't like doing that. I mean, the
press conference, you mean, like talking to us about his...
Yeah, just, and I did give him kudos for standing in there and not trying to get out. I mean, he stood there for 10 minutes, and I know that...
he had to be talked into that. He had to... Basically, his arm had to be twisted. There's no way he just decided to do it.
I don't think he was talked into it at all. I think he was told to do it, and what's he going to say, right? He's got to do it. I don't think they had to twist his arm. It's like, you're going to do this. And he did it, but he didn't squirm like I thought he might have. And there was some fairly tough questions mixed in through there, and he didn't change his tone or anything. I just think what I saw was a young guy who I could tell he felt bad about the gambling, the social media part of it, and we could talk about that too. Liking the Lamar Jackson to Detroit tweet. No, he didn't show any contrition to that at all because he didn't think he'd done anything wrong. And to me, that's a bigger issue.
Scary. Wasn't it just chilling to think that's just playtime. That doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, no, I don't know about chill. I don't know about chilling. I might reserve that word for a much more serious crime. But not
scary,
not the
and how ignorant and naive he was about that.
Well, and the second word you just said, I think, is the both those words. I mean, that's what we're talking about.
Dunderheaded.
Right? We're talking about a young guy who's very naive in a lot of ways, and there's some level of ignorance there, and he's got a lot of maturing to do. He's got a lot of figuring out to do, and that's the other part of this equation is that not all 22-year-olds are the same. Right? I mean,
yeah, but I mean, when are you going to start?
And he's got a longer curve, a much longer one. I have no idea if he'll get there, Carlos. None.
He's not off to a good start. That's for sure.
No, he's not. No, and that was really the main point. Is that it's funny because the producer of the Elric podcast that I do, the Soul of Detroit, was asking yesterday, and he's a huge Lions fan. He was like, "Is he a bust? Is he done?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I wouldn't give up on him just yet. But yeah, if he gambles again, he's gone. If he keeps liking and pulling stuff like that on social media, he'll be gone. And you're right. Like in the NFL, they don't play around at all.
Yeah, he can't, the problem is, you can't apply the whole, like your kid, my kid, Jameson Williams. You can't apply that same, methodology because our kids don't play in the NFL. They don't have the white hot intense spotlight,
But it doesn't. But yeah, you can because they're still the same human. No, it's not.
There's too much at stake. Our kids screw up. Nobody knows about it but us. There are some consequences, but it's not millions of dollars, not only lifestyle, but possibly generational wealth changing, money and opportunity.
There's no
for these
question
families.
the opportunities are different than from him. For Jameson Williams, the opportunities are different than they would be for most kids that age just starting out. The opportunity is different. But you can't apply the same set of standards that you do to a young person trying to figure the world out. Those are the same. It's just that the what's at stake is different. But that doesn't again change if you're a certain way or if you need more cooking. And that guy needs a lot more cooking. You know what I mean? He just does. We'll see. We'll see if it works.
That's the thing we don't know is you have to. I would assume that having been in, he's a high draft pick. They really need him to come through. They really need him. They're really counting on him. They're doing everything they can to help him, to give him guidance, to tell him what to do, what not to do, whatever it is. From the team perspective, from the league perspective, the league doesn't want a black guy, all this stuff. The team doesn't, and there's some issues there because it wasn't just him. It was several players from the Lions so there was something fell through the cracks here. There was, I'm sure the team deserves some blame for not emphasizing this enough. Right. So, that I don't want to put it all on Jameson Williams for the gambling stuff, but he's in a different boat. He's a guy that is being counted on to be a star. And he definitely looks like he has the tools physically to be a star in the NFL and for this team. So that's the thing where I would imagine that they've done as much as they can to help him. Maybe it hasn't been enough, but we can't forget he's 22 years old. He's been in the league for a year. It's not like he's a rookie. Stafford came in the league as a 20-year-old and he showed a lot more maturity. He still had some stuff, but he showed a lot more mature. Not everybody's the same.
Do. Lots of players
do, but he's had a year, Shawn. It's not like he's just some little
His
kid
teammate in Alabama, who they just drafted, the safety branch, the hybrid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you talk to him?
No.
He's worlds more mature.
Yeah,
it's just who he is. I mean, some people are just further behind in that way.
And that's the thing. You don't want it to be a waste because like this guy has a big opportunity. And if you're a Lions fan, I'm sure you're really excited about watching him play and getting 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns or whatever it is. They're really counting on him to be a difference maker. He's their one guy who's going to be their outside deep threat who could be a star easily. And he's already, he's not going to do that this year because he's going to miss 6 games. That offense is good enough that it shouldn't kill him. But it's a wasted opportunity for himself, and it's a shame.
Well, but it's not completely over yet. It's not anywhere near over, and that's the other thing. And the Lions aren't giving up on him. I mean, just for the listeners.
Oh, you don't know that. You don't know that it's not over because he could get hurt. He's something else.
Well, yeah, but that hasn't happened yet. So yes, it could be over at some point.
Talk to Titus Young and talk to Javid Best. It was over real quick for them.
Well, that's true of anybody. If you have a series of concussions or mental illness creeps in or whatever,
right. You don't know.
That could happen, but those aren't the facts right now. The facts right now are that he got busted for gambling on the property when he obviously shouldn't have, and it cost him 6 games. And then he showed some not so smart decision making on social media. He's got to have to figure out how to navigate that. I know privately what the Lions are giving up, and what they think is that he's a good kid. And they use the word kid. It's just what you do when you're our age, and that's just right.
Good kid. Yeah,
but they think he's a good kid from a tough area who's really naive and has a ton to learn, and they're hoping they can help him get there. That's what they think privately, right? I mean,
you know what? Maybe signing Marvin Jones is part of that equation of bringing some experience and some maturity to kind of help, give him some guidance, in the receiver room.
Well, no question. I'm sure they want to get as much around him as possible. At some point, though, it's got to be him, because you can't babysit somebody 24 hours a day, right?
Right.
And the other thing too is the most powerful tool in the universe resides in your pocket. And so how much of the day is he going to have? Is it going to be him and his phone? You can do a lot of damage with that.
Just take his phone away from him. That'll fix a lot of no gambling and no tweeting.
Well, that's what you do when you're 13 or 14, but unfortunately you can't do that at 22, even though you feel like you wish you could sometimes, right? But so we'll see. I mean, I thought it was at least a somewhat hopeful sign from their perspective that they feel like he's picking up on some of the football stuff a little bit more. Dan Campbell talked about that, right? His route running, and just so that shows at least a little bit of focus. And that may be on the football field, that's fine. He's got to carry that over. But if that had gone south, right? If they didn't start to see any football progress in terms of being a technician and understanding the tree system of the routes, how to run the routes, the chemistry with Jared Goff, all of that. If that's not going to come along, then it's all a moot point anyway, right?
Yeah. I don't worry about the on-field stuff. That's probably not going to be a problem.
Well, you never know. I mean, there are plenty of players that get moved on because they can't figure out the on-field stuff, right? I mean, that's in some ways it's more difficult. It really is. I mean, just because you're fast, right, doesn't mean. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that, and that also requires a certain amount of dedication. A lot of it, actually, discipline, maturity, focus. Yeah, I guess it goes hand in hand, right?
Yeah. So, I would trust that, being a starter at Alabama and Holmes going up and moving up to get him, that they like what they see. They're pretty sure of what he can be. It's just the other stuff that's a big concern. But yeah, you're right. It could all be. It's all part of the equation.
Yeah, we will see. And unfortunately for Lions fans, they're not going to get to see for a while, right? That's the. That's
preseason. Should have said a little preseason, maybe.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of preseason. For the fans that go down to training camp, you get to see a little bit too. But no Hard Knocks this year. All right, let's take a break and come back and talk some of your Detroit Tigers. We will be right back with more Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Welcome back to Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Carlos, what is happening with your Tigers? You decided to go down and write about them. A great column, by the way. One of your absolute best. What month are we in? We're almost in June.
Late May, Shawn.
Late May. We that might be your best column of the year.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, that was really well done.
The bar is low, so that's not saying a lot.
That was really well done and really, really in tune with what's happening with them right now. And it ended up being prescient too, because I think you went early and gathered your stuff before the game, and then ended up losing the game, which is to the Texas Rangers, which is the second time they've lost. But you're a soothsayer, man, because you basically wrote that it's okay to have hope. Don't think about the playoffs. The Tigers are fun. They're not quite ready. And then, they lose a couple of the Texas Rangers, who I want to say are in first place in the West and are a really good team and a really good hitting team. And this has happened a few times this year, right? Where they get rolling and then all of a sudden they're up against one of the best teams in the league, and reality sets in a little bit more, right?
Yeah, but even though they lost their first two to the Rangers, and the Rangers are a really good team, like you said. I mean, they're a buzzsaw. Their run differentials, like, I think second best in the majors. And the Tigers, I went on Tuesday, they lost 10-6, but they hung with them. Even though they're the Rangers, and Miggy had three hits, and he actually had he beat a throw to the plate to score. He slid under the tag. They hit 2 home runs. Jake Rogers, Andy Ibanez. It was Alex Fado had a pretty good outing. I mean, it was. They shouldn't have been this close to the Rangers. They shouldn't have been keeping pace with them as close as they did. A loss is not just every loss is not the same. They didn't get blown out 10-0. They lost 10-6. The game before that they did get shut out. So whatever. But
what was that? 6-0, 5-0?
It was, I think it was 5-0. And
5-0.
But that's what it's going to be. And don't forget, I mean, they're trying to catch the Twins, and it's completely okay, I wrote, to be talking or thinking about the postseason right now and thinking about what they could do, because the division is not good. The Twins are going to have 3 games in Tampa coming up next week. The Tigers could be in first place in the division, and they haven't done that. They haven't led the division since 2014. They have 15 wins in the month of May until Shawn Windsor goes out there when we're recording this on Wednesday, May 31st. And they're going to want to impress you, Shawn, because they want you to come back, maybe in the next month or so to watch them again. So they're going to win the game for you. And they're going to get 16 wins. And I don't know when the last time. They haven't won 15 games in a month since 2018, 5 years. So this team right now, for the Tigers and who they are and rebuilding, whatever, you could call them hot. I mean, they're doing the right things. Took a big blow with Eduardo Rodriguez, that's going to be gone for a while with the finger injury.
He's only been their best pitcher, starting pitcher.
Yeah, he's by far their best pitcher. So that's going to be a tough loss. But for now, at least, they're overachieving, and it's okay to start thinking about the standings and are they going to catch the Twins? Are they going to pass the Twins? It could happen. It's not inconceivable at all. And whether they stay there or not, as I've said before, you don't get healthier generally as the season goes along. Although there are other pitchers, Tarek Skubal, who you love, and Matt Manning. They're making the progress. They're making progress. They're making the road back. They could be back, without too much more time. So if they get those guys back, that could help offset the loss of Rodriguez.
Well, it is kind of a bummer, the timing, right? They lose Rodriguez, and then they lose Riley Green, and I don't know. I'm not a doctor. You may be, but I assume he won't be gone for too long, right?
It didn't sound serious, but they're, the classic, he left the game. He told Hinch, that something was bothering him in his leg, whatever. And he went out there and he wanted to keep playing, and Hinch didn't like the way he was moving, so he pulled him out. But we didn't get to talk to him, and it's just going to be the whole MRI, X-rays, whatever. We'll probably, by the time that this comes out, we'll know more about possibly the timeline for how much time he might miss. But I'm not a doctor, I don't know, but I wouldn't think that it's that serious. I mean, Hinch said that it's a good sign that he wanted to go out there. If you're really hurt, you can't even try to go out there.
No, for sure. Sometimes those guys leave games and they're just being extra cautious, and then all of a sudden they're out for weeks. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen with this.
Anything.
It does. And just in team sports, it does. Oh, we just want to take a little time here, but injuries are tricky that way. But yeah, no, they've had this kind of fun momentum, as you talked about. They won 15 games so far in a month, and I think that's what's. And you wrote about this, and I think that's what fans are just enjoying right now. They just, with these 3 teams, we're not including the Lions, although we probably should, because they could. I mean, they're just as capable of coming out and having a face plant this fall. I'm not trying to will that into existence. Obviously, it's not good for anybody, including us. But the other 3 teams, the Pistons, the Lions, the Pistons, the Tigers, and the Wings, fans just want what we've just seen, right? At least for now, what we've just seen from the Tigers in the last month. Something to cheer about and think, oh, okay, maybe there's a direction here. Maybe there's a path here. These guys are scrapping and they're fun, right? I mean, they're playing. Yeah. They played winning baseball in May, and I don't know if they're going to do that every month, but that's what people crave more than anything right now with these teams, right? Just something. They're not expecting a parade.
Yeah,
they just want a little something to hang on to.
That and Tuesday's game was a perfect example of that. I mean, it was tied through the third or fourth inning, 4-4, and it was kind of going back and forth a little bit for a while. Like I said, a couple of home runs and Torkelson, Miggy with the 3 hits, and it was a fun game. It was a fun game to be at. So Tigers fans don't need to be told this, that when they've been so uncompetitive, it's been hard to watch and it's boring. I think the pitch clock definitely has has a lot to do with it. That even if they're not great, the game's moving along. By the way, there is a report out there that I think it's been reported that now it's Riley Green has a stress fracture in his left fibula, and 10-day injury list, and he's going to get a second opinion. So
to my point,
that's not great.
Whenever you hear the word fracture,
yeah, that's not.
They're
great.
only saying 10 days.
Well, for now, 10-day injury list, and he's going to get a second opinion, and it's going to be more than that, I'm sure. But yeah, that's another thing,
What did you write, Carlos? Wait, what did you write a few weeks ago? Was it the lottery? Whatever. It could be anything. Detroit can't have nice things.
We can't have nice things. Yeah, absolutely. It's tough, and Green and Torkelson were the big pieces of the future. And last year, Green started off on the IL because he got hurt right out of spring training, didn't make the big league team out of camp, and he makes it, and he gets called up, eventually, and after a month or so. But then Torkelson struggles, and now they both seem in lockstep of they're both progressing and showing good things, and then now Green's hurt. So, it's tough. It could be a tough season, but and that's why you have to celebrate these times. They can, Hinch and the Tigers and whatever, they don't want to talk about the standings and getting anybody, they don't want to talk about the postseason, and of course they can't. They can't look that far ahead. We barely played. This will be barely a third of the season is done, but you better enjoy it as a fan. You better enjoy the excitement while you can, because you don't know how long it's going to last. So you look at the standings, scoreboard watch, see what the Twins are doing in Houston, wherever they are, and enjoy it. And if they get there, if they get close, that's great. That's a sign of progress, But what you were saying, Shawn, made me laugh about the Lions, because that's exactly, I was talking to our friends in the radio booth during the game, and we're just chatting, and that's exactly what he said. Is like, everybody just assumes that the Lions are going to be really good and nothing's going to happen and whatever, and they're going to be just winning, and it's like, when has that ever happened? When have they ever just completely lived up to high expectations? And it could happen, but yeah, it's just it's kind of funny how you're almost kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop, but let's hope for the best.
Yeah, no, this fan base is certainly used to it, right? I mean, they're not. There's no way they think this is a done deal. I mean, I think people do understand with the Lions that there's real talent on the team, and that's exciting, But they're also, one wrong step from Jared Goff,
right,
from being in serious trouble, right? Like any team.
Right.
Like any team.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's fine in the playoff game for a half. You lose, Mahomes goes down, and oh my God, I can see his face. I can't think of his Chad Henne comes in and leads you down the field, whatever. That's fine for a drive. But for the month of September, if somebody's out for 6 weeks or whatever, that's your season.
You don't trust Nate Sudfeld? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's nothing personal against Nate Sudfeld. It's just that he's not Jared Goff. Yeah.
And that's, the other thing we were kind of joking about, like, what's the worst thing that could happen? They're supposed to have like clear sailing, the clear favorites to win the division, one of the top teams in the NFC, whatever. But it's like,
I don't know about clear.
Pretty clear. Nobody's even, I don't think there's even close to anybody challenging for the NFC North, but in analysts' opinion, right? But like when that happens, Justin Fields going to like lose his mind and like run for 2,000 yards or whatever, 40 touchdowns.
Yeah, he'll take a big leap or something.
Or it'll be even worse. This is even worse. Jordan Love, like he'll suddenly be great.
Yeah,
like it'll be like, oh great, we're going from Favre to Rodgers to Love now.
Yeah, he'll be an all-timer. Yeah, no, for sure. It's funny how that, it's not funny, but it can happen for sure. As far as the Tigers, though, I don't remember the last time. Well, I guess the end of this, and I think you mentioned this too, but the end of 2021, right? 2021, they got on a roll a little bit, and people were excited to the point they were talking playoffs at the beginning of last year. So even then, though, did it quite feel like this? I don't think that people think, obviously they don't think this is any kind of juggernaut. I think people have just been pleasantly surprised, especially Carlos, because they started off so poorly this year. So I think people have written them off 3 weeks into the season, 2 weeks into the season.
Yeah, I mean, it was a
Right?
little bit of a struggle at first.
There was nobody there. I mean, right? That's the other thing. Nobody.
Yeah, but
and I get it. It was cold and school's not out, but still.
They started on the road. They started in Tampa, against the best team in the majors, as it turns out. And then the Red Sox at home for the home opening series. So those were tough games to start off with, or series. So
it was the way they looked, though, too, right? Before the infamous benching of Baez in Toronto. It was just the way they looked.
There were
right?
problems, right? There were problems for sure. But good teams make you look bad also. It's not like...
No question. But it's just they had this look about them, and that's what's changed. And I just don't think people... I think a lot of fans are... I think that's part of what's been so fun, is that a couple of months ago, it looked like this wasn't possible. Like we were just going to go into a 100-loss season. It was the beginning of a 100-loss season.
Yeah, absolutely. They were on track for like 100
and
losses.
That's and I think that's made this even more enjoyable to see this just sort of inching and inching and inching. I mean, if they can get the third game of the Tigers, of the Rangers series, that might be something. Look, losing your best hitter and your best pitcher, that's tough. And if those linger and they don't have both those guys for the next month, they'll feel that. No question.
For sure. And that's the hard part with this team, is they don't have, a team like this, they don't have much of a margin for error and for losing people, and they can't make mental mistakes. They can't make, and just watching the game yesterday, with they had to move because of Green. They had to move players around. Zach Short, who's an infielder, had to go play center for the first time in the majors. So they had to kind of mix and match, and this team is limited. I mean, Jonathan Scope had to play third, and he was struggling out there. And Baez made a mental mistake, and allowed a run to score. And this team is just not. It's not an elite team. And they're going to have to scrap, for every win that they get, and not waste their chances. And you can see that, and but you know what? That's part of it. That's also, I think, you need to appreciate is, Hinch isn't getting enough credit probably for helping this team, for benching Baez, but handling it well and managing his player well enough, and not letting that become a source of, dysfunction or acrimony in the clubhouse, or with the player specifically himself, and how he's handled criticism. So there's a lot of things that have been in play here that I think have been positive steps for the Tigers, but it's still, they're going to blow games because, even with perfect health, they're just not an elite team, on the field or in the batter's box.
No, they're not, but they are a fun team. And you wrote a really fun column capturing that fun team and I think what people are feeling, and it's okay to keep feeling that. Basically, you sat them down on your couch and you said, "Hey, keep up the good work here."
I thought, what Shawn Windsor right?
It's okay to be attached to this team. You gave him permission, Carlos, and you did it in a very kind and gentle, fun way. But all right, let's take one more break, and we will come back and talk about the ratings bonanza of the Denver Nuggets and Miami Heat finals. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to talk about our favorite thing. We'll be right back with more Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Welcome back to Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Carlos, it's that time of the show where we get to talk about what incredible lives we have, and the lives that are, enviable lives, really. Wealthy, rich lives of just unimaginable fun and drama, but not melodrama. Just kind of, it's never boring. You know what I mean? Really, seriously, does anybody live a life like you do? I don't think so. I almost feel a little bit guilty talking about it. No. We're just going to talk about, we're just a couple of schlub sports writers here, right? Trying to appreciate, maybe your mic's off. It's okay. Trying to appreciate, a couple of little things that may happen to you during the week that you need to stop and appreciate, right?
I think you turned my mic off, so I finally turned it back on again. But
no.
Son.
I don't have that kind of power, but nor do I want that kind of power. I mean, you might, but
doesn't Elric have like a cough button for you where he can silence you on your podcast?
I don't know. Mike Elric wants to control everything, and and more power to him. No pun intended. But yeah. So it's that time of the. So yeah, let's get to our favorite thing.
All right. Why don't you lead off, Shawn?
All right. My favorite thing is mowing the lawn. Is it? Can it be that simple?
Wow, that's beautiful. Okay. I love it.
Yeah. No. I've enjoyed mowing the lawn all my life. My dad used to have me in a little tiny lawn, a patch of grass we had in a Air Force base in San Antonio. He used to have me first ride on his shoulders and then kind of push underneath. And he told me, this is a long, long time ago. My dad's been gone a long time, but he told me when I was in my early 20s, one time that when I was little, we'd be driving around in that 66 Chevy Impala, and I would actually see a lawnmower, and I would stand up. This, of course, before we were in seatbelts or car seats. I was probably 3. I'd stand out and start pointing out and screaming, lawnmower, lawnmower, lawnmower. So for some reason, I've had this thing for lawnmowers all my life. But my favorite thing is that it's been hard for me to give up the lawn. But my son mowed the lawn this past week, and I was okay with it. And then I was actually like, I could get used to this. This isn't bad at all. He mowed the lawn, he trimmed, he did the trimming with the weed eater, and it looks great. It better because he moonlights he's got a second job. He moonlights as a groundskeeper at a golf course in the area.
Nice.
But so he's becoming a bit of a pro. But I've had this connection. It's a meditative thing for me. I'm sure it is for a lot of people, and I've always liked doing it. Been reluctant to give it up, but it's okay. So that's my favorite thing. I learned it's okay not to mow the lawn, and then to have your son help out like that. There you go. So that's my favorite thing.
Oh, that's great. Passing the grassy torch. I love it.
What about you?
My favorite thing is you, Shawn Windsor, who came out last week and watched Freep Stars, the vaunted co-ed softball team that plays on Belle Isle every Wednesday. And you joined first early mention actually is interim editor Anjanette Delgado in the cheering section for our team. It was great to have you out there and to have you finally hang with your coworkers and, could be teammates too, but you can't play because I think you're just basically a broken shell of a man. But
pretty much. It
was fun. We won the game. We had fun doing it, and then we went out to a bar afterward to celebrate. And we had a good time. And it's always, I think both of us feel this way, but it's been the way our work life has changed, and sports writers are different. A lot of the reporters kind of do go in the office here and there. Sports writers almost never go in the office because we're too busy bouncing around to different games and whatever practices. So it's great that we got to see everybody. There was a good turnout. And I really appreciated you coming out and cheering on the side. It was a lot of fun. And I hope we keep doing it again. I hope you come out for another game down the road.
I will. That won't be the last time I get out. I will definitely make another game. It was great. It was cold, but that's okay too. Belle Isle's a beautiful setting. It was fun it's always fun to see how people move through space, when you're used to working kind of in an office or in a press box or whatever. And it's fun to see another side of people and actually how they move and run and how their arms work. And maybe that's partly why I'm a sports writer. I just enjoy the human body and what grace people have and hand-eye coordination, all that sort of thing. So I enjoyed that part of it.
You're talking about Mike Elric's pitching, is that's what you're talking about?
Yeah. No, for sure. No, I enjoyed that, and I will definitely do that again. And that's very kind of you to mention that.
My pleasure. It was great.
Right.
It was great fun.
All right, bud. Let's thank some people and get the people out of here.
Yeah, let's thank producer Robin Chan and executive producers Kirkland Crawford. And she's executive producer, but also the interim editor, Anjanette Delgado. But mostly, Shawn, we have to thank you, the listener, for sticking with us. And what do they need to do? What's the most important thing that listeners can do?
Well, they need to, subscribe to this little podcast here on Spotify or Apple, wherever you find your favorite podcast. Subscribe, rate us, just give us any kind of shout. I mean, we're desperate, can't you tell? I mean, we really are, and that's okay. We're honest about that, and that's what. Yeah, and that's what matters. We're very self-aware in our desperation, but that's okay. So, subscribe, rate, all that good stuff. Carlos, when are we going to be back next week?
Next week, same time as usual.
Right, we'll probably have more Lions stuff because that's really what matters more than anything right now. There's more OTAs to talk about, and we'll have some of your player breakdowns. How about that?
Perfect.
Okay, sounds good. All right, my man, it was fun. Until next week, we will be back with more Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn.